Berengaria of Navarre is thought to have been born in Pamplona, Navarre, in northeast modern Spain, somewhere between 1165 and 1170. Unfortunately, at this time, only exact dates of births were recorded for male descendants. She was the oldest child born to King Sancho VI of Navarre and Sancha of Castile. Her younger brother would go on to become King Sancho VII of Navarre, and her younger sister, Blanche, would become Countess of Champagne. In 1185, Berengaria would be granted the Fief of Monreal by her father. Throughout Berengaria's youth, the mother of Richard I of England, Eleanor of Aquitaine, would seek a betrothal between her son and Berengaria. A union would suit Eleanor's political position, as an alliance with Navarre would defend Aquitaine's southern border. An open betrothal was impossible though, as Richard I was engaged to the half-sister of the King of France, Philip II, Alice. The engagement would be broken though in 1190 in Messina in Sicily, maybe through rumors the Alice had become the mistress of Richard's own father, Henry II. During 1190, Eleanor of Aquitaine would meet King Sancho in Pamplona, where a secret betrothal would be held in the honor of Berengaria at the royal palace of Elite. Richard would request that Berengaria should be brought to Messina during 1190. There, Berengaria would be placed in the care of Richard's sister, Joan, who at that time was the widowed Queen of Sicily. At this time, it was Lent and no marriage could take place. Also, Richard was away fighting the Third Crusade in the Holy Lands. When Berengaria's ship was en route to meet up with Richard, it became marooned on the island of Cyprus, and both Berengaria and Joan were threatened by the ruler of the island, Isaac Comnenus. Richard though would lead an army to rescue both Berengaria and his sister and overthrow Isaac Comnenus. Berengaria and Richard were married on the 12th of May 1191 in the chapel of St. George in Limassol, Cyprus. On the same day Berengaria was crowned Queen of England in a service conducted by the Archbishop of Bordeaux and the bishops of Évreux and Bayonne. After their marriage, Berengaria would travel to the Holy Lands with Richard. It is known that she was present at the siege of Acre in 1191. She has also been reported as being instrumental in securing a peace treaty, known as the Treaty of Jaffa, between her husband and the Muslim leader, Saladin. The treaty was finally signed at the beginning of September 1192 following the Battle of Jaffa between July and August of that year. The treaty would lead to a 3-year truce between the two armies. Following the signing of the treaty, Berengaria would travel back to Europe alone, leaving her husband in the Holy Lands. She would leave with Joan on the 29th of September 1192 from Acre. She would have probably traveled first to Cyprus then on to Italy, via Brindisi, before staying in Rome for 6 months. After leaving Rome, she would travel through Pisa, Genoa and on to Marseille, finally to her home at Beaufort-en-Vallée in what is now western France. In December 1192, Richard would leave the Holy Land, but would travel through what is now modern-day Austria in the Holy Roman Empire. There he would be captured by Leopold of Austria, who would transfer him to the German Emperor Henry VI. Henry VI would hold Richard hostage for a ransom of 100,000 marks to be paid in February 1193. Richard's mother Eleanor, desperate to keep Richard's brother John from the throne, would together with Berengaria raise the money to pay for her son's ransom and would travel to Germany to negotiate the release of Richard. The negotiations would be successful, and Richard would be released in February 1194. Richard though, instead of returning to his wife in France, would return to England, where he would deal with his treacherous brother John. He would also be crowned King of England at Winchester on the 17th of April 1194 in the presence of his mother rather than Berengaria, who remained in France. Richard was crowned later than Berengaria, due to his long stays in the Holy Land when his father, Henry II, passed away. By this time Richard had not seen Berengaria for 2 years, and he was pressured by various courtiers that he should reunite with his queen. He would eventually reunite with Berengaria in Lox later in 1194 in Lox in France. Despite this reunion, Richard would spend most of his time on the project of building a castle galliard, whilst fighting off incursions from Philip II of France. Rumors had started that Richard may find a way of repudiating his marriage to Berengaria, but as he was a close ally with his wife's father, that marriage stayed intact. In March 1199, whilst taking a walk around his military camp during the siege castle of Charlus-Chabrol in his conflict with Philip II, Richard would be struck in the arm by an arrow. Weak in health from his conflict during the Crusades, he would die on the 6th of April 1199, later mostly likely from an infection. Berengaria was not summoned when Richard died, nor did she attend his funeral. Richard would be buried at the family mausoleum at Fontevrault, and Berengaria would visit his grave sometime afterwards and meet with Richard's mother. Having not produced an heir with Richard, the throne went to Richard's brother, John. She was forced to live in the palaces of the Counts of Maine and heavily relied on the support of the French for money. Any money due to her by the English throne was withheld, firstly by King John, then later by his son, Henry III. It is believed that up to 1226, 27 years after Richard's death, money was still due to her. It is believed at the death of King John she was still owed £4,000, but this was all eventually repaid. Berengaria would also be remembered as the only Queen of England who had not stayed in England during her reign. There have been disputed reports though that she may have visited Canterbury Cathedral 1216 and 1220, but this has neither been proven or denied. Berengaria's last role in life was to build a Cistercian house at Epinal on land purchased from Louis VIII of France. She would die in December 1230, at an age between 59 to 65. She would be buried in the abbey at Epinal. Her bones were removed from her burial site at some unknown point, but were believed to be discovered again in 1960 in a vault and returned to their rightful resting place at the abbey.